All right, today we're going to dive into some really cool new research. It starts to unravel a medical mystery that's been around for a long, long time. The connection between our guts, our hormones, and, you guessed it, pain.
I mean, it's something a lot of people have noticed, right? But for the longest time, science didn't really have a solid answer. Well, that's all starting to change. And the whole story, it turns out, is hidden deep, deep inside ourselves.
We're talking about things like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, which for some reason is way more common in women. And this isn't just a coincidence. There's a real biological reason, and scientists are finally starting to pinpoint exactly what's going on. Okay, so let's get into it. The main suspect? Well, anytime you're talking about biological differences between the sexes, you've got to look at hormones. And in this case, the investigation zeroes in on one big one, estrogen. And the folks behind this study, they don't beat around the bush. They're basically saying, yep, it's estrogen. It's the key player here, keeping the gut in this constant state of high alert, extra sensitive.
So you might be asking, how did they figure this out? Well, they looked at pain responses in female mice, and what they found was pretty incredible. When they removed the ovaries, the main estrogen factory, gut pain sensitivity just dropped dramatically. That was clue number one.
But wait, it gets better. Here comes the smoking gun. They took those same mice and gave them just a single injection of estrogen. And bam, within hours, that high pain sensitivity was right back. I mean, you can't get a clearer cause and effect than that. It's estrogen, case closed. Okay, so we've got our culprit, estrogen. But where is the crime actually happening? For that, we've got to zoom in way in to the scene of the crime, the actual lining of the gut. So, scattered throughout your gut lining, you've got these little special agents called enteroendocrine cells, or EECs for short. The best way to think about them, they're like the taste buds of your gut. Seriously, they're constantly sampling what's going on in there and sending little messages out to your brain and the rest of your body. Now, for our story, there are two main characters you need to meet. First, you've got L cells. Their job is mostly sensing nutrients. And then you've got their neighbors, the EC cells. Now, these guys are important because they release serotonin. And in this context, serotonin is what shouts pain to your nervous system. Okay, so you'd think this is simple, right? Estrogen must be talking directly to those pain-signaling EC cells. Obvious. But when the scientists actually looked, nope. The receptors for estrogen just weren't there. This was a huge plot twist. If estrogen isn't talking to the pain cells directly, then how is this all happening? And this is where the real detective work paid off. It wasn't a direct conversation. It was something way more clever, a secret little chain reaction happening between the cells. Get this, the mystery was solved when they found the estrogen receptors weren't on the pain cells at all. They were on their next-door neighbors, the L cells, the ones that are supposed to be sensing nutrients. And that discovery revealed this really elegant domino effect. Check it out. First, estrogen signals the L cells. Then the L cells release this little messenger molecule called PYY. Think of it like a text message to its neighbor. That PYY molecule then floats over and activates the EC cell next door. The EC cell, now activated, does its thing and releases serotonin. And finally, that serotonin hits the nerve fibers, and boom, pain signal to the brain. So, to put it another way, the L cell is basically a middleman. It gets the signal from estrogen and then tells the EC cell to sound the alarm. Pretty sneaky, right? But hold on, the story isn't over yet, because it turns out this whole chain reaction is also connected to something else, our diet, and the tiny bacteria living inside our gut. Okay, so we've got the internal wiring down, right? Estrogen to L cells to EC cells to nerves. But where does the food we eat fit into all this? Well, that brings us to these things called short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs. Now, these aren't in your food directly. They're actually made for you by the good bacteria in your gut when you feed them fiber from stuff like vegetables and whole grains. And here's the kicker. Estrogen does something else too. It doesn't just start the dominoes falling, it also supercharges those L cells. It makes them way more sensitive to those SCFAs that are coming from your diet. It's like turning up the volume on the whole system. And you can see it right here in the data. It's pretty wild. When they exposed L cells to estrogen, their reaction to one of those fatty acids was just off the charts compared to the cells without estrogen. So estrogen is basically priming this whole pain pathway to totally overreact to what's going on in your gut. So why does all this cellular detail matter? Well, because figuring out this puzzle isn't just about solving a mystery, it actually opens up a whole new door for potential treatments. So let's recap what this all means. 1, we finally have a clear biological reason for why gut pain is more common in women. 2, we see this incredible direct link between our hormones, our diet, and our nervous system. 3, we've uncovered this secret communication network in our gut we never knew existed. And maybe most importantly, this whole L cell to EC cell pathway, that's a brand new target for researchers to go after. And that leaves us with a huge and really hopeful question. Now that we understand this specific conversation between cells, could we design treatments that interrupt that one specific message? Could this be the key to new personalized therapies for millions of people suffering from chronic gut pain? It's really exciting stuff, and thanks to this research, we have a much clearer path to get there.